Hello, everybody. This is Alan Gubanich. If you can see me along with my red-tailed hawk friend here, I'm talking to you from Northern Nevada, where I am a longtime member of the local Lahontan Audubon Society and chair of their education committee. So we're here in Reno and Sparks, Nevada. And if any of you out there that are listening are local teachers, by that I mean here in the Washoe County area, our Lahontan Audubon Society, we actually do visits to school kids in their classrooms. And we also in the spring conduct field trips, birding trips for students down at Washoe Lake. So at the end of the talk, you'll see how you can contact me at the Lahontan Audubon Society if you want to schedule a classroom visit or a birding trip to Washoe Lake, but of course, not until after the pandemic is over. Well, anyway, I've been asked to talk to you about tools for birding or other wildlife. So let's go birding. Well, no matter what kind of wildlife you're going to be looking for, the number one tool, without a doubt, are binoculars. So if you don't have any binoculars, try to get yourself a pair. I mean, you can watch bird without binoculars, and you probably do it all the time, watching birds in your yard, or you see them in a park or out in the neighborhood somewhere. But look, if you've got some binoculars, look how you can take that bird and how close you can get it for viewing and get a close look at all of its beautiful colors, watch its behavior and so on. But of course, if you're not interested in birds, binoculars are good for other things, not just birds, but also bugs and butterflies, or perhaps you're interested in lizards or snakes. Here in Northern Nevada, it's not unusual to see wild horses, particularly if you're somewhere along something like the Truckee River where they come down to drink. And across all through North America, it's always possible to see deer somewhere. Binoculars really help you to zoom in on them. Now, if you don't have any binoculars, where can you buy some? Well, my first recommendation is to go to a local sporting goods store, wherever you live. Here in the Reno and Sparks, you see I've listed a whole bunch of locations for you. In fact, I think Shields and Cabela's are probably nationwide, so check those out. But local people, notice this, even Moana Nursery at the end over at Moana Lane is now selling binoculars. I couldn't believe that, but very reasonable prices too. Of course, you can always go online to look for binoculars. And if you do, I would recommend you go to redstartbirding.com. So I hope you all have pencils and paper to write these things down. If I go too fast, don't worry about it because I'll list all these website addresses at the end of the talk again so you get them down. But at redstartbirding.com, they have an optics guide that you can get for free. You can just download it. But when you're looking for binoculars, don't get these cheapo things, okay? You'll never be happy with cheapo things, but $40, $50, $60 or so. When it comes to optics, you get what you pay for. And the more money you can afford to spend, the much better your binoculars. Something like these loopholes are around $300 or $400, for example. But all right, for some reason, I'm not moving. Here we go. But if you get onto Red Start Birding, you'll see a whole bunch of different makes and models and so on with all kinds of names and so on. If you're not familiar with binoculars, let me give you a little bit of information. You always see them listed as 7x25 or 8x42 or whatever. That first number refers to the magnifying power of the binoculars. These lenses here, the ones that you look through at the top of the binoculars, those are called the oculars or eyepieces. And that number with an X refers to how large they enlarge the image. So these oculars will enlarge the image 8 times, which means that when you're looking at a bird, for example, that bird will look like it's 8 times closer to you than it really is. Of course, 10-time magnification will give you an even larger image. The other number, the 50, the 42, whatever, that refers to this lens, which is called the objective. That refers to the size of the objectives, the diameter in millimeters. The larger the objectives, the more light that will come in, the brighter the image. So higher magnification, better light. But there's a downside to these larger binoculars. They're heavy. And if you're not used to binoculars, they can be really hard to hold steady, especially on a cold day and a windy day. So if you're just getting started with binoculars, I'd recommend you start somewhere with an 8 or maybe even a 7 until you get used to them, okay? All right, how to use binoculars. What I want to do is get off of my PowerPoint for the time being and see if I can get myself on the screen here and show you, well, maybe you're going to have to do it up here. Show you how to use binoculars. I've got about 6 basic rules for you. Number one, all binoculars come with a strap, right? Put that strap around your neck and leave it there. You don't want to be walking around with binoculars in your hand. If you do that, you're liable to drop them somewhere and damage them. Rule number 2, don't ever look at the sun directly with your binoculars. You will burn your eyes out. Well, maybe not burn them out, but you'll certainly do damage to them. Rule number 3, if you've got an old pair of binoculars that have these little rubber cups, we call them eye cups, that's great if you don't wear glasses. But if you wear glasses like I do, roll those eye cups down. You'll get a much better total field of view. And if you don't believe me, try them both ways and see what you think. If you've got some newer binoculars like this, they don't have eye cups, but they do have eyepieces that can roll up like that, okay? So they're standing up for you. If you wear glasses, keep them down. If you don't wear glasses, roll them up for a better view, okay? Give that a try. All right, rule number 4. Notice that you can bend the binoculars up and down like this. That's so you can adjust them for the distance between your eyes. So when you put binoculars up to your eyes, quite often you see 2 little circles of light. We call that the field of view. Well, you get better vision if you rotate or move those binoculars, bend them back and forth until you see just 1 circle and keep it there. You want just 1 circle of view. Rule number 5, when you're up there looking at that 1 circle of view, you see this knob that rotates here? Every binoculars has a rotating knob here. That's called the focus knob. So when you've got your binoculars up, keep at least 1 finger on the focus knob. So when you're looking at something, you can quickly adjust your focus. If it's over here, you look at it there. Something is closer, you adjust the focus knob again, and so on. All right, the last rule, how to find the bird or the animal you're looking for. Don't make this mistake. Ooh, I see a bird out there. So what do? I look down at my binoculars and bring them up? No, that's wrong. If you see a bird out there or another animal, keep looking at that animal while you bring the binoculars up to your eyes. That gives you a much better chance of finding or locating that bird or animal within the binoculars. Okay? All right, now let's see if I can get back to sharing the screen again and get back to, all right, what I'm seeing on my share screen here is, oh no, there we go, we're back. All right. Okay, so how to use binoculars. The next thing I want to talk about is if you really get into watching animals and really watching birds, you may eventually want to get yourself something called a spotting scope. A spotting scope gives you even higher magnification. See, the eyepiece that I have here will magnify 20 times and all the way up to 60 times because I can rotate it to do that. But you'll need a sturdy tripod on which to hold that spotting scope. And now keep in mind, a spotting scope is not a telescope. A telescope is for what? For viewing stars at night, right? This is spotting scope is for viewing animals during the day. And that optics guide that I mentioned here, that has a number of different brands and models of spotting scopes and tripods that you can look at. And man, spotting scopes can get really expensive, even more than $2,000. But look, here's some good, what we call entry level for only about $400 or $500. Vortex, that's a good brand, Vortex. Now, I mentioned that our Audubon Society takes kids down to Washoe Lake here south of Reno for birding field trips, and we have spotting scopes that we let kids use down there, and we teach them how to use them. Spotting scopes are great for finding something that's really way out there in the distance, like, for example, ducks and geese way out in the middle of a lake, or maybe you're trying to look at a bald eagle that's way up high on the top of a tree. Spotting scope will even do a better job than binoculars. All right, so binoculars, spotting scope, number 1 tool. The number 2 tool, get a good field guide. There are all kinds of excellent birding guides to birds of North America on the market. I've used the National Geographic guide for years. A lot of people use Sibley, some people use Peterson. Get even more than one because not all of them may have all the features that you like. And if you got 2, you can go back and forth and use one or the other. But if you get one of these, that's a guide to all of North America. Depending upon where you live, you may, the book may have a bunch of birds that you'll probably never see. So look for a field guide that is basically designed for your part of the country. For example, here's Sibley's Field Guide to Birds of Western North America, Geographic Guide to Birds of Western North America. Here's an even Western Birds Backyard Guide. And of course, if you live somewhere back east or in the middle of the country, there's Sibley's Guide to Eastern North America, and these guys have Eastern bird guides too. If you're not into birds, there's other kinds of guides. You can guide for mammals, amphibians and reptiles, insects, butterflies. Well, look at that, butterflies through binoculars. Who would have known? There's field guides to trees, there's field guide to flowers, and oh my gosh, who would have thought? Stargazing with binoculars. Whoa, isn't that neat? And also, when I started birding, I wish I had this. If you guys have an iPhone or some kind of an Android phone, you can download bird guides onto your phone. You see, I've got 8 different bird apps on my phone. Some of them cost you money, some of them are for free, but you can download the entire Peterson Field Guide to Birds of North America, the Audubon Bird Guide. A lot of people love the Sibley Guide and so on. Go to the App Store if you've got an iPhone and download it, or get it on Google Play if you've got an Android device. Now, lots of websites out there that can help you get started with birding if you've never done it before. I'd recommend one place to start is birdwatchersdigest.com. This is the home page for Birdwatchers Digest. Notice this, freebies. That's right, freebies, free stuff. You click on that and whoops. You click on that and look at all the free things you can download. Tips for easy bird identification, how to identify like an expert. There's that optics guide that I mentioned. Birding by ear, how to identify birds by sound. How to attract hummingbirds, how to identify bald eagles, young and old. So check them out. It's just great. You can also get on there and click this button, connect, go down to Young Birders at birdwatchers.com. Lots of helpful hints here. Choosing and using binoculars, top 10 tips for better bird watching, tips on how to identify a bird, what is a field guide, and so on. So go to Birdwatchers Digest and check them out. Now, an excellent, really excellent website for birds is the Cornell Laboratory of Ornithology, especially their sub website called All About Birds, allaboutbirds.org. They got all kinds of useful things here for you to learn about birds, but here's the one I want to call your attention to. You got a phone? Download this free Merlin Bird ID app. Merlin ID. This thing can help you identify birds out in the field for lots of species. You can download it from the App Store or Google Play. So let's say you're out birding, you're not quite sure what that bird is you're looking at. So you click on Start Bird ID, and Bird ID will ask you 5 simple questions. First of all, where did you see the bird? So you put your location down, say like Virginia Lake, Reno, Nevada, but you should include the town and the state that you're in. The next screen will ask you, when did you see the bird? And today's date will come up. Next screen, what was the size? Is it big as a goose? Oh, maybe the size of a crow or a robin or a sparrow or somewhere in between. Make your best guess as to what you think the size was. Click on next and they ask you, what were the main colors of the bird? Anywhere from 1 to 3. If it was all black, just click black. If it was black and yellow, click both of those. If it was say brown and orange, click both of those. Next screen, was the bird doing any of the following? Was it eating at a feeder, swimming or wading, in trees or bushes, etc., etc.? Click on next, and bam, in a few seconds, less than a minute, it will bring up a bird that they think is the one that you were looking at. If it is your bird, click on This is my bird. This link will actually play songs and calls of the bird. Click on this arrow and you'll get more pictures of that same bird. If that's not the bird you're looking at, scroll down here and look at other birds that look very similar to see if that's the bird. But here's another really cool feature about Merlin ID. See where it says photo ID? If you can take a picture of the bird, you click on that, take the photo, or if you got a photo on your phone already, choose that one. Go next, you take the picture, you call it up and you zoom it up until it fills that entire box. And then confirm your location and date, where you are in the state and the date, and then boom, in another few seconds, it gives you a suggestion as to what your bird is. Can't find the right one? Try adjusting your answers. Now, isn't that neat? And that is free, baby. That is free. Cost you nothing. All right. You've never done any bird watching. Where should you start? I recommend you start in your yard. Here's part of my front yard, part of my backyard. I've lived in this house for 17 years and I've seen almost 80 different kinds of birds And that's just looking out through my windows, not even trying hard. You want to get birds? Add a feeder. Get a hopper feeder where you lift up part of the roof, you dump in the seed and sit back and watch the action. Or get seed and throw it on the ground. You'll attract lots of birds, especially in the wintertime. Get a finch feeder or a finch sock. You put in this finch seed, which is actually Niger seed from Africa, and you'll attract all kinds of various finches, like lesser goldfinches and house finches and so on. You get even more birds if you supply water for the birds. I mean, not all birds eat seeds, but all birds need to drink, right? And so I have, as you can see, not only a bird feeder, but a fountain in my front yard. And you don't need to get a fountain, but the sound of running water just seems to really be a magnet for birds. So that's why it brings in so many. And here I am just standing in my bedroom window and watching all these birds coming to both the feeder, the bird bath and the fountain. So here's a California scrub jay that's drinking, but all birds need to bathe too. So that's another good reason to have water for birds. They need to bathe to wash their feathers and keep them clean. And you need to keep water for them all year round. So get a heater to keep the water from freezing in the winter. I got this one at our local nursery, Milana Nursery on Milana Lane here in Reno. You don't have a bird bath, make your own. Take the lid from an old garbage can or use a dog food or a water bowl. Lay the lid down flat, put some flat rocks in it, fill it up with water, but keep it shallow, maybe only about 1 or 2 inches above the rocks. Same thing with the dog bowl, and watch the birds come in. And these will freeze over the winter time, and they did for me. But you can buy a heated pet bowl. I went to Amazon.com and found one on Chewy.com, and there it is. And here it is on my back patio, full of water and ready to go. Or you can get a suet feeder. The suet feeder is nothing more than just a metal cage that you can open up, and you put these what we call suet cakes in there. You can get suet cakes at any nursery, any garden center, like at Home Depot or Lowe's and so on. And you put them in there, and they're often good for attracting woodpeckers, like downy woodpeckers and this northern flicker here, or other birds like a mountain chickadee and sparrows and even scrub jays and so on. And of course, come spring and summer, get some hummingbird feeders. Here in northern Nevada, one of the most common ones you'll see is the black-chinned hummingbird, named obviously for the black chin. But if the light hits it just right, whoa, look at that violet there, that purple on the bottom of what we call the chin of the bird. Now, if you live out here in the West, you can get, as many as 7 different hummingbird species, depending upon where you live. And if you're way down in the Southwest, you can possibly get even 6 more species coming up from Mexico. All right, where else to go birding other than your backyard? Well, I would say start at one of your local parks. Here in Reno and Sparks, this is called Paradise Park off of Adi Boulevard. Try to find a park that has a lake or a pond in it, because if you're just getting started with binoculars, it's so much easier to learn to use binoculars when you're watching birds that aren't flitting around from tree to tree or branch to branch. Just watch them there on the water. Here in Reno, there's a whole bunch of different parks that you can go to. If you want a list, go to the website for Truckee Meadows Parks Foundation, tmparksfoundation.org. There they'll list all the parks in Reno, all the parks in Sparks, and all the parks in Washoe County, and figure out where they are and where to go. Another suggestion is to go to our Lahontan Audubon Society website here in Reno. It's nevadaaudubon.org. Scroll down on the homepage till you come to these pictures, see where it says Area Birding Guide. Click on that, and boom, we have a copy of A Birding Guide to Reno and Beyond on our website, and that's available for purchase in our LAS shop on the website. But we got 20 different locations you can go to look for birds. So you click on one of these, you'll get instructions on where it is, how to get there, maybe even a map on in some cases, and what kinds of birds you can find there at different times a year. All right, how are you going to learn to identify the birds if you've never looked at birds before? Well, again, for those of you that are local, go to our Audubon Society again, nevadaaudubon.org. Click on the resources. You'll see this page with about 13 or 14 different other websites to go to. But what I want you to do is scroll down below where it says birds and windows. And down there, you'll see this box. It says Backyard Birds of Northern Nevada. We have 5 videos there that try to explain to you how to identify different birds. Introduction to backyard birds, common resident birds, summer breeders, winter birds, and other possible species. So check them out. Maybe those videos will help you. So how do you learn to identify birds? Well, obviously your bird guides, your Merlin ID, any of these websites I've mentioned, or just Google identify birds. Also, join other birds on a bird walk. Other birders are glad to have you come along and try to teach you what they know. Our Audubon Society, once this pandemic is over, we will get back to offering bird walks almost every weekend, and everybody is invited, no charge, it's all free. I would also recommend go back to our Audubon website again, nevadaaudubon.org, and click on education. On that page, you'll see a video about taxidermy mounts. For you local people, up at the Galena Creek Visitor Highway, which is about 5 or 6 miles up the Mount Rose Highway, the Galena Creek Visitor Center is there off on the right side of the road. And when this pandemic is over and the Visitor Center is open again, you will be able to look at over 200 taxidermy mounts of birds that our Audubon Society owns up there. And you'll be able to look at them close up and learn to identify different kinds of birds. And local teachers, keep in mind those classroom visits I mentioned. We take some of these taxidermy mounts into the classroom and talk to kids about birds. Now, I know I'm running out of time, so let me finish up by saying, get out there, go outside with your binoculars, enjoy yourself. You might even see, instead of birds, you might see some cottontails or yellow-bellied marmots or jackrabbits, or maybe even a coyote. Or how about a bobcat? And on one of our field trips to Washoe Lake, we actually had a bobcat sitting and sleeping in a tree while we were there. That was beautiful. Okay, get out into some of the outback and you're liable to see pronghorn, what most people call antelope. And if you're really lucky, oh yeah, who wouldn't mind seeing with your binoculars desert bighorn sheep? So get out there, enjoy the outdoors, go hunting with your binoculars. That's what you're doing. You're out there hunting and you never know what you're going to see. Now, if you still have questions after this is over, go to our Audubon website again, click on Contact Us, fill out all that information in the comment section, said, I have a question for Alan or a question for Alan Gubanich, and I will get in touch with you. Okay, so if you didn't get all those website addresses down, here they are. I'll leave them up here on the screen for a couple of minutes. Thank you for your attention. Hope to heck this was useful for you and that I've encouraged a lot of you to get out there and go birding, okay? Bye-bye.